It is no Mac Pro. And I own both. And I speak out of first-hand experience.
He owns both iMac and Mac Pro.
It is no Mac Pro. I can leave my Mac Pro going for days and days and days, and I won't even think about it. It won't even cross my mind that the thing can't handle it. I've had this thing rendering at max CPU for 24, 48, 72 hours at a time straight. If I tried that with my iMac, god damn, the temperatures would go up to 180 degrees, guys. It's no kidding.
So, right here, he just stated that his Mac Pro can be left on for a very long time without it getting really, really hot. He's saying that the iMac will get really hot if he leaves it on. And in this sentence, he says, actually, the hottest I could ever get the iMac was 145 degrees. 180 is a little high of an estimate. This is after a couple hours of CPU maxing. The iMac idles around 118 degrees. The Mac Pro idles around 88 degrees. So in this, what he's saying is actually pretty stupid and is common sense. The Mac Pro is a bigger machine. You know, it sits on the floor. It's a tower. I think, yeah. There's more room to put more things in it, such as heat sinks and fans. In the iMac, they're trying to make it as thin as possible, so they can't put as big fans as they want, big heat sinks. So the reason why the iMac gets hotter is because the heat sink on it is not as it's very short, so it doesn't push the heat away as far as the Mac Pro's heat sink. And the fans on the iMac, obviously there's the vents on it. It pushes it out really good, but it doesn't push all the heat in there. And in the iMac, the motherboard, the hard drive, the video card, the screen are all right there next to it. So all that heat is in there, and it's locked in there, and for little amount of heat to escape out of the small vent. Now the Mac Pro, there's bigger vents, there's a bigger fan, more powerful fan to blow that heat out. So the Mac Pro should be a lot cooler. This has nothing to do with the processor. The processor, yeah, it gets hot, but it really has nothing to do with it. So on a custom-built PC with an i7, it will be as hot or cool as the Xeon Mac Pro. So technically, he is very wrong here in this statement. The iMac is totally different because it's an all-in-one PC versus a custom-built PC. There's just more room, more fans, bigger heat sinks that push away the heat. So, yeah.
iMac is a beast. It really is. It's strong, it's powerful, but it's not meant to run like this Mac Pro is. If I left this iMac running at maxed CPU, maxing it out, 3D rendering or something, and I just walked off and left it that way for 3 or 4 days, I wonder what the temperature would be like when I come.
Again, it's because the iMac is very thin, so all the heat stays in there. The vent and a little amount of heat can get out of the vent quick enough. So that's why it gets hotter. Again, this makes no sense when you're talking about i7, a desktop, because it has nothing to do with the processor making heat.
Back, would it be 150? I'm not going to say the iMac can't handle it, but I'm definitely going to say it's going to be harder on the iMac than it is my Mac Pro. And I can say this from first-hand experience. So
it says, unless you have something like water cooling, then your machine is nothing like the Mac Pro. This is another stupid comment because you don't need a water cooler if you have an i7 and you're maxing the CPU out. Like if you're using a rendering program, you're rendering another video, and it's 100% used, because you only use a water cooler if you're overclocking your processor. So, for example, let's say you have an Intel Core i7 at 2.33 gigahertz. When you overclock it, you're changing the gigahertz, which means that the processor is going to require more energy. So it's going to pull more energy, which means it's going to get a lot hotter. A lot of gamers do this to get better frame rates, faster speed, stuff like that. And so that's when you would need a water cooler. So unless you have, basically, Yeah, it makes no sense right here.
All you all out there, whoever hasn't, if you haven't owned a real true OEM workstation and the little custom built i7, if you haven't owned them both, then you have no room to talk.
I own a custom built PC. I'm on a MacBook Pro right now, but I haven't owned a workstation. But it is common sense. When you have less room in something that makes a lot of heat, it's going to get a lot hotter versus something with more room to breathe. So it's just common sense. You don't need to have both of them.
There's always going to be these people that say, well, I have both. Make a video and prove you have both and show me.
Doesn't that sound a little immature? Prove it to me. Prove it. Just, come on, man.
You know, I can show you. I can get the video camera out and I can stick a 3D render and max out my Mac Pro, and I can stick something on the iMac and max out the iMac, and I can film it and I can show you guys the temperatures. Okay, I've got them both been cranking here. As you can see, 142 degrees. Over here, Mac Pro's cranking. Been cranking. 84 degrees. The Mac Pro is staying a lot cooler.
It's running a lot cooler because there's more room. There's bigger fans. There's a bigger heat sinks. There's more room for air to get in and push the heat out. The vents are bigger. That's why it's a lot cooler. It has nothing to do with the processor.
Now, I'm not taking anything away from the iMac. The iMac still beats any junk PC on the market. I think this is a beast of a machine, and it's wonderful. But it just proves the efficiency of the Mac Pro and its cooling and its setup. Now, you want to put water cooling inside your i7 custom build? Well, I thought we was trying to make it like the iMac, man.
Again, if you're trying to max it out, like you're using 100% of the CPU, you're not going to need a water cooler, because if you did, why would they make a processor that powerful when you can't max it out unless you have a water cooler? That's like the stupidest thing I've ever heard.
If you got water cooling in it, it's not like the iMac. So I'm just saying the Mac Pro is a Mac Pro, guys. This one's now on 88. There's a difference. It's how they're made. These Mac Pros are made to run. They're made to work. They're expected to work heavy loads.
Yes, the Mac Pro is expected to work heavy loads. But so can a custom-built PC. Just because it is not as fancy looking as the Mac Pro doesn't mean that it can't handle what the Mac Pro can. Because I could stick 2 Xeon processors in my custom build and it could be exactly the same. I could put 32 gigs of RAM if you want me to. It's going to be DDR3 if you want even. I'll throw a better graphics card than the Mac Pro. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm a big Apple fan, but I'm just trying to correct what he's saying that's wrong. So, just saying no.
For a long time. This is a consumer PC. They're not expecting people to work with it like that. They're expecting people to do work, but they're not expecting it to be up for 24/7 like they are this thing.
Actually, cheap computers can be up for 24/7.
They're built different. They're different computers, and I don't know what I have to do to get you all to understand that.
They are different computers. One's a Mac Pro that's made out of aluminum because that's what Apple chooses. Or I think it's like aircraft steel or something like that. Something really fancy. Versus a custom built. Now, the custom built, you're talking about an i7 versus Xeon. Well, they're both made for work. Even heavy work. So, I don't know what he's talking about
It's
here.
not just about performance. Your i7 may be just as fast as this Mac Pro, but it's still no Mac Pro. And
I'd even say it's faster. The i7 is a fast CPU, no doubt, but that's not everything. That is true. The speed isn't everything.
I don't know what I have to do to get you to understand that, Zol. I don't think I'm ever going to be able to. You just stand in your little corner with your head turned to the world, and you don't listen to what people's trying to tell you.
Actually, I think you're doing the same exact thing. You keep saying that Windows sucks. I'll talk about it in a little bit.
So you go ahead and make your little videos bashing me and telling people I'm an idiot. That's fine. I own both. I use both. And I know
You don't have a custom built. You have an iMac.
the difference. I'm not the idiot. OS 10.
Actually, you're not. Technically, you are being an idiot because you're making retarded comments. Now, in a previous video, don't know which one it is.